Welcome to this week's episode of The Average BTAD Student. This week I'll be covering the topic of portfolios. So in order to create my portfolio, I had to go back and reference all of the documents, basically every single document that I've ever saved or created since the very first class that I've taken. So since I'm in my capstone class now, it is very important that I need to go back and retrieve old files. So if you don't do this now, I would highly suggest that you do this in the future. So this first icon on the desktop, that Stormtrooper dude, is an icon to my USB flash drive. So I had to basically reference all files on my flash drive in order to create a folder on my desktop called BTAD Portfolio. So first I'm going to hop into my flash drive. Now on my flash drive, you'll see a folder called Classes Like Washington. So I'm going to go ahead and double click inside of there. And inside of this folder, so first I guess I should explain the color coding system there. So red is anything that's sort of important, items that I'll reference beyond whatever current class I happen to be in. So things like the schedules or the creative process, since I cover that in every single class. And then items in green happen to be the classes that I'm currently taking. So this quarter I'm taking brand marketing, capstone, and mass media. What I really want to point out here though is that since the very beginning class, I have a folder related to that course. As I expand any one of these folders, you'll see that there is a folder structure that relates to the week that we happen to be in throughout the quarter. So if I expand any of these weeks, you can see that inside of the folder is whatever was covered during that week. And that includes my content, whatever digital files I've created, things like PSD files or JPEGs or PDF documents, and then items that the teacher has provided to us through the college's course management system. So I'm going to go ahead and collapse some of those folders. And that same hierarchy you'll see for every single class that I've been in. So the reason why that is so important is because now, looking back and trying to create a portfolio, I need to go back and reference all of these old documents. Now, again, if you don't do this currently, if you're not saving every single file and every single item or resource that the instructor has provided to you, I would highly suggest you do that. So these are all the documents that I've created since day one of the program, and now I'm going to go ahead and go into that folder on my desktop called BTAD Portfolio. So as I get into here, you'll notice that the items here are different than the items on the right-hand side. So not all of the courses got carried over. That's because I'm only choosing to highlight certain projects that relate to one of those courses. So in this case, an item for the BTAD lab, for Evergreen, for printmaking, for e-learning, etc. So before I actually get into the portfolio, I'm also going to talk about the building my resume and how that's changed through the years. So in 2010, when I first started the program, this was my resume. So fairly simple. It was created in Word. It included some basic screenshots, projects that I have done, URLs, and then awards or anything else that I've done. In 2011, I decided to redesign that, and this was while I was in the BTAD program, actually for one of the courses, I believe it was entrepreneurship, where it was required to redesign your portfolio. So in this case, I made it a much more graphical view of my portfolio because the audience that I was going to show this to was different than before. And then lastly, in 2012, I've updated my resume one more time because of the people that I will be supplying this to. So in this case, it starts sort of with a definition of who I am. And then it gets into, again, this is done in Microsoft Word. So this isn't as strong of a visual impact, but it's a lot easier to read than the one I created last year. I'll point out one last thing on here. I put a subliminal message that says, hire this guy at the bottom right-hand side. I'm weird like that. Okay. So now, actually looking at my portfolio, I'll go ahead and open up one of these here. And we'll view this full screen. Alright, so the purpose of my portfolio was not just to show work. Anyone can do that, and I have lots of previous work, even before I started the program, that I could have showcased. Work that would show that I was capable of creating video, graphic, web, campaigns, and all of the above. What I didn't show in my previous portfolios, though, was the process. So what I really wanted the BTAD portfolio to highlight was the creation process. So in this case, on the left-hand side, I show all the content that I researched, or sort of what stood out most about the project, the challenge that I faced, and how I dealt with that challenge. On the right-hand side, you see the final result. So what I'm really doing here is not necessarily relying entirely on the strength of my design, but also relying or demonstrating the fact that I actually have a creative process. So this one was related to web and branding. The next project was a presentation project. This was for the Ethics of Design course. Now, in this case, the topic of choice was the atomic bomb. So because of that topic, which is a highly powerful topic, and all of my research showed images that were pretty much black and white or sort of a sepia tone, since they were old or archival images, I wanted to match that same feeling and sense of power and destruction from all of my research on the right-hand side, which is the actual presentation. So my presentation included sort of subdued colors along with those powerful graphics, and I actually created an accompanying website with it as well. So again, the purpose of all of this is not to show the final product, because nobody really cares about seeing a PowerPoint presentation, but to show a process of how I got to that point. So this is for the class that I'm currently in, which is Brand Communications and Marketing. So the opportunity here is to redefine the BNSF brand. So this is sort of a case study that we're working on. And my angle for all of this was to go towards a more environmental feeling. Since some folks look at trains as sort of old or antique technology, you know, they picture a train with the steam coming out of it and lots of pollution and things like that. So I thought this was a great opportunity to actually show that trains are extremely fuel efficient. So my color scheme dealt with all the research that I did on green technology and earth related color schemes. So on the right hand side, you see the final result. So in this case, the final product was a video. And in order to get to the video, I actually had to do a lot of location scouting. So I looked at all different locations around campus, found great spots that would be serve as great backdrops. And then this was actually in conjunction with a team project where we gave a presentation as well. But I'm focusing more on my contribution here, which was the video part. So the purpose again for all of this is to show that there's a defined challenge and an outcome, and then finally the money shot, which is that product, whatever I've created in some sort of an interface. So in this case, it was designed to be an iPad app, so I'm showing it in an iPad. So again, another presentation and all the research that went into that creation of the presentation. This, by the way, these beautiful guys and gals are most of cohort 2. This was a team project. So I just want to say I love you guys. Okay, we'll move right along. So again, this project is a print project, and I can't say that the design on the right-hand side is that strong of a design. I only worked on it probably for a few hours, since it was just a single week project, sort of a definition of who you are or what you value. But on the left-hand side, you see all the research that I did to get to that point. So even though the design is not that strong, the entire concept is strengthened because of all the research that went into it. So one awesome thing about taking the design technology class is that I got to create my own website, and actually my own business called Panduse Design. So if you're not Hispanic, that's okay. But pan dulce stands for sweetbread, so Mexican sweetbread. So sweetbread design, pan dulce design, is my DBA, or doing business as. And in order to get to the point of the final product, which is the website and business card on the right-hand side, I had to do a lot of research on what is Mexico? How do I capture Mexico? Is it the color scheme, the fonts? How do I incorporate pan dulce into all of this? This was a team project, so in this case, Jennifer and I decided that we could really create something beyond the class that incorporated actual print studios in the Seattle area. So we created about a 15-minute documentary going to these different artists and studios and asking them about the print process instead of showcasing a project that we created in class. So what we created, I really think, is much better than anything that we could have created on our own in the classroom, and is the #1 search results when you're searching for Seattle printmaking. This is one of the only videos and the only documentary for Seattle on printmaking. So I gotta say, this was a great opportunity to do something sort of above and beyond that nobody else would have done. Next was a print campaign, and this is sort of something that symbolizes important values, or sort of a value system. So in my case, mine are all rebels. I'm a rebel, I guess. This was a concept for a computational design course. And in this case, it was to create a modular shelving system. So besides creating the system, I also wanted to create an end product, which wasn't necessarily part of the deliverable for the class, but I thought if I did all the work of creating a good concept, then I might as well show it in use. So I've just photoshopped it in this case, a child's room, a teenager's room, and a princess's room at the top right there. So my tagline was from diapers to dimples to pimples. Next, another concept for the same, actually for a different course in industrial design theory, was creating a SHEST, or a shell and a nest concept. So this was one of the courses that really got me into sketching and redefining, I guess, my process for sketching, creating lots of different iterations in order to create a concept that was solid. So in this case, the concept that I created on the right-hand side was only created because of all the research I did on the left-hand side. And then lastly, another videography project. So this was actually for a computational design class. And instead of just creating a graphic and turning in a piece of paper to the teacher, I wanted to capture my creation process. So what I did is I did a screen capture, sort of what I'm doing right now, and then I added my voiceover and made it high speed so that my 2.5 hours worth of work, probably in Photoshop, ended up being about 3 minutes with my voice over it. So if anything, my last piece of advice to you is that even though any teacher gives you specific requirements for an assignment, I would probably suggest to ignore those specifics or go above and beyond, because every single project that you create or that they put in front of you, every assignment that a teacher gives you, is an opportunity for you to create something that is portfolio worthy. There is no way that I would have created all these, great projects if I did the bare minimum. So obviously I spent a lot of time doing all of these projects, but I would highly recommend to anyone that any extra time that you spend in the creation of these assignments and making them unique to you. So in my case, I jazzed up a lot of these projects with videos, since that was one of my strengths coming into the program. And everybody has different strengths coming into the program as well. So I've worked with engineers, architects, and graphic designers, all a part of my cohort. And each of us brings something very different to the table. Whatever your strength happens to be, I would recommend that you throw that into any assignment that you turn in. So whatever you turn in is uniquely you. By the time you get to the point where I'm at, and that's at the capstone class, looking back at all the work that you've done, hopefully you're able to showcase, a gallery of content that is unique to you. That's it for this week's episode of The Average BTAD Student, which is the creation of a portfolio. Thank you for watching.